Hello friends, welcome back to the C.Gars channel, myself and Billy. Today we're back at St James's and we are joined by a very special guest, Pete Johnson. Thanks so much for joining us, absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
How's your time been in London?
So far so good, a little tired, but ready to go.
You got plenty to do in a very short amount of time. So.
Yeah, every trip that I take to London has always been really quick, so
Yeah.
it's hard to fill in everything. I think most of my trips to London have always been 3-4 days max.
Right.
So
A lot of people to see in 3 or 4
yeah,
days.
and plus I have to be back to Miami to get on a plane to Charleston to host a 3-day party with my club. So,
Okay. Well, that's exciting. That'll be good
yeah,
fun.
we have a group of a couple thousand members in our club, and there's a couple hundred that are showing up in Charleston to have a party with us. So, which ends on my birthday, actually.
Well, there's worse ways to spend your birthday.
Well, I'll be on a plane on my birthday back to Miami so I can watch the Formula One finale,
Yeah.
which should be pretty interesting.
Is that the priority for you then?
That's a priority for me.
It's like me with
No,
football. to be fair.
my wife also told me that I couldn't just show up on my birthday. I go, don't worry, I'm going to be home at 7.
But she
so I'm-
doesn't realise it's for the Formula
She's
One.
not going. No, she's into Formula One too.
Oh,
We're
okay.
both fans
Oh, that's
of.
all right then. Yeah.
We're both fans of the guy that's not the British dude.
Right, okay. As
Max
in Max
Verstappen.
Verstappen?
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Is that because he always wins or?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because he could potentially win, but Lando Norris has to come in like 4th place.
Yeah, there's a bit
So-
of drama with it this time.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to win yesterday either. And
No,
he did.
I didn't see the result in the end.
He
but-
won. He
Oh.
beat Lando came in 4th, and Max came in 1st, Piastri in 2nd. So he's actually ahead of Piastri now in points.
Right.
But now he's still behind by 12 points from Lando. So Lando has to come in 4th place or 5th place, I think. 4th place, something like that. 10.
So
he
set
can't-
up for the
He
drama.
can't get more than 12 points.
Right.
That'd be a nice birthday present for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a
bet.
fan of his, I mean, can't be too
We
bad.
became, fans of the sport during the pandemic when you have nothing to do. It's like,
Right.
oh, this seems like a good show. And it ended up being the perfect time to start watching it.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic brought a lot of people into the cigar industry as well.
Yeah.
And I think a great little segue to talk about the cigars that we're sampling today. I mean, relatively new productions for yourself. Would you mind going through the 2 cigars that we have? Obviously, Lewis having the
Yeah, I mean,
Cabaiguan.
you say the pandemic, my business increased tremendously during the pandemic. We were always a very stable company, and then one day it's like double the amount of people wanted to smoke our product, which is a blessing, but it's also a blessing in disguise. When the factory might have to rush production, you get stuck into a rhythm that you might screw up, for lack of better words. So you got to go slow. You can't just double it tomorrow. You have to really kind of scale it properly. But these cigars that we just that we're sampling today that just came out, the 7th Corojo, which is 100% family-grown tobacco. So it's 100% Garcia-grown tobacco, all Nicaraguan. We use 2 binders on everything we make. The wrapper is Corojo 99, which is a classic seed that came from, obviously, an island south of Florida.
Right.
Yeah, to me, this is a very old world. Everything I do is kind of old world, new generation. Because even though I have crazy things like the Monster series, I always pay respect to the tradition. So I use a lot of classic sizes. Some other cigar makers laugh at me because I do sizes that are like 5 5/8 by 46. And I'm like, they're like, why not 5 1/2? I go, because a true Corona Gorda is 5 5/8. So that the 7th Corojo, the reason why it's called the 7th, it was the 7th cigar that we came out with in this line. In Tatuaje, and it was also the first cigar we started making in Nicaragua after making cigars, first brown label cigar made in Nicaragua. Previously, we made all the brown labels in Miami, and eventually I didn't want to make the same cigars in Nicaragua, so I started new sizes in Nicaragua. The other one we're sampling is a Cabaiguan 52. It's a 4 3/8 by 52. A great little size, pigtail head, Connecticut Ecuador wrapper, grown by a great grower, David Perez at ASP. And there's my phone. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
My apologies. I have alarms set for every hour for something at home in Miami, and I keep on forgetting to turn them off.
Fair enough, no problem.
Hopefully they don't go off again. But yeah, the Connecticut Ecuador is going to act a lot milder. But if you look at the two cigars side by side, this Connecticut Ecuador with the 52 and the Cabaiguan doesn't have Ligero in it. But the 7th, Corojo, which I'm smoking, actually has Ligero in it. But the wrapper kind of brings it down a little bit. It actually gives a sweetness to it, and it actually doesn't seem as strong. Because if you taste the cigar in different wrappers, it tastes completely different. A lot of people think that I'm actually changing the blend inside also, but it's not the case. I have 5 different versions of this. I have Corojo, San Andreas, Connecticut Broadleaf, Sumatra, and Habano. They all taste different. But it's really a great way for people to test their palates and see what they do and don't like about a wrapper. But everybody's convinced that the blend is different in these because it tastes milder.
I say it must be so intriguing, like to have, say, all 5 or in a row and sample them one after the other.
I think it's important for people to kind of, education is power, in the cigar industry. Like when the consumer knows what they're smoking and enjoying, they have better information. They have a better way to make choices.
Yeah.
I've always been big in like educating people's palates and trying to teach people about what they're smoking and why they're tasting certain things.
Well, it makes the experience for them way better if they understand what it is they're sampling and where the flavors are coming from, right?
I can give suggestions like when we talk about how a cigar tastes, flavor notes. I don't really like to do that so much because I don't want to influence people's own judgment because your palate's different than my palate, your palate's different than my palate. You guys don't have the same palate. No. Everybody in the room is completely different. So, I'll give you a base. I'll give you the blend. I won't give you all the secrets, but I'll give you the wrapper. And maybe I'll tell you there might be some creaminess or some nuttiness or some chocolate notes, but you'll have to find all the fried chicken and all the other flavors that you're looking for.
So it's similar actually to how we run events, right?
Yeah, 100%.
With flavor notes and things like that. We don't like to stand at the front and read what it is we're supposed to get.
No, yeah, because
it's so subjective.
Exactly.
It's so different from person to person.
I usually, people ask me all the time, like, can you recommend a cigar for me? I'm like, well, like, what do you smoke? And sometimes they'll tell me a brand, and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing for you. Yeah. If they tell me, oh, I smoke Opus X, I'm like, listen, dude, I don't have anything that tastes like Opus X. And if you like Opus X, continue smoking Opus X. Because, the reality is that's not what I set out to do.
Yeah.
What I set out to do is to make a cigar for myself. Like all these cigars that you see that I produce are all made for me to smoke. I don't make a cigar just to sell
for
it.
everybody else.
I think from a consumer point of view, though, with you being so transparent about that, I would be more inclined to buy from you, to try your brand.
I want people to understand that when no one wants to smoke my product, one day, I'm stuck smoking all of them. So they better be really good.
Yeah.
Like I don't believe in just making a cigar for the purpose of selling. It's not a widget to me. It's not a cog. Like for me, you have to have purpose behind the product that you're selling. So it has to mean something to you. You can't go into it thinking that you're going to make a lot of money in the cigar industry. And I have friends in the room that can tell you that it's not an easy thing.
No. It's similar to Steve Sacco, the way he thinks. Like he makes cigars for himself.
No, that's 100%.
I feel like it gives brand identity, though.
I think it's every cigar. Well, most great cigar makers or cigar brand owners have that same mentality. I think it might have been George Padron's father that actually I heard it from him first, which was, I make these for me. You guys enjoy them as the bonus.
As you say, it gives you a uniqueness. Because if you're doing it for your own personal palate, as we just mentioned, is so different from person to person. It gives your brand and its own identity, its own flavor notes and all of these things.
We all have to enjoy what we're doing because, Carlito's going to make a cigar for himself. George Padron's going to make a cigar for himself. That's why everybody has different cigars. The reality is we could take the same tobacco and we could all produce different items. Because if you look at some of these components, a lot of us are using the same tobaccos. They come from different farms, so maybe you're getting different flavor profiles, but I always say that you could make Nicaraguan cigars in thousands and thousands and thousands of blends because there is no real, like, the recipe is here.
Yeah. There's
Like,
no set
if I
recipe.
give you the components and say put it together, your version of it's going to taste different.
Yeah.
So that's it.
So that's down to ratios of tobaccos
Yeah.
and things like that, right? Okay. So in terms of Tatuaje, many consider it a cornerstone in the boutique area of cigars and things like this.
Yeah, some people give me a little bit of credit for that, but I didn't start it. Like, no. There were other brands way before Tatuaje. There was a brand called Bahia. You probably don't even remember it.
No.
It was owned by a guy named Tony Berhani. Tony was like a small producer. He made cigars in Costa Rica before Costa Rica was even a thing for cigars. Some people actually followed him down there to start making cigars in Costa Rica. That's where CAO started.
Right.
With cigars. They made some cigars with Nestor Plasencia, but they also made cigars in Costa Rica with this guy named Don Douglas. And Tony was working with Don for Douglas Perringer, actually. We called him Don Douglas.
Right.
Tony was working with him for several years. And he kind of created this spark in the industry of like small batch, really, really boutique. There were other companies that did it also. Every company was boutique at one point in time.
Right.
Padron was a small company at one point. Fuente was a small company at one point. So if you think about, my father was a small company, in the early days. So when we were making cigars, our aging closet was literally a closet. It was
Right.
like a sliding cabinet, and you maybe had
Like a bit
2,000
like
or 3,000 cigars inside the cabinet.
like a cupboard under the stair type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But so what do you think kind of set you apart and make you kind of drive it? You, as you say, Tatuaje still falls under sort of that boutique, individualized brand. But what kind of drove you? Because as you mentioned, these other brands, they're not as popular today. So what made Tatuaje different? What made you bring that forward?
I think the transparency we were talking about, and just the commitment to making a cigar for myself, and not making it a cog or a wheel that I'm just trying to make money off of. I don't know. The business for me is weird. It's not business. It's supposed to.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure and it's a passion thing. I don't think. I just didn't change anything. It's a perfect expression of me, and I really paid homage to the tradition. So when I started working with Pepin, it was really one of these things where I was about to get out of the cigar industry. I was about to leave the cigar industry to go try to get in the wine industry.
Right.
And I kind of gave up the dream of making my own product, because every place I went to get a cigar made, they all gave me a cigar and said, "Here, we can make this for you." And I would look back at them and say, "Well, that's your cigar." They're like, "Yeah, but we can just put your band on it." I'm like, "Yeah, that's not what I want." So when I met Pepin, he was brand new into the United States. He didn't even have his own brand yet. He literally came into this place called the Grand Havana Room in Beverly Hills, sat down at a table that I set up for him, and he started rolling me cigars. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really that into them."
Right.
Like the first few samples I didn't like. Like it was based off of a real quick question: "What do you like? Medium, strong?" "Oh yeah, let's do medium full." And then I actually gave him an old Cuban cigar that I had in my collection, and I had two out of the box, and I said, "Here, smoke this." And he goes, "You want this?" I go, "Yeah, that's the cigar I want." And he sat back down with the exact same tobacco, with a cigar that I didn't like, and he produced me a new sample that I was like, "Holy shit! Like this is."
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's such an art as well, because I think we spoke a little bit off
Yeah,
camera.
he's a master, you know.
I don't understand how they manage to bring all these things, because effectively it's leaves, right? But understanding to bring them all together.
You know, the Pepin ended up having a signature when we started Tatuaje. Tatuaje was the first production cigar that they ever made. They didn't even have a brand yet.
Right.
Tatuaje was the first production. And of course the joke was like, "Oh, we're going to make cigars for this kid with tattoos." My wife now says, as she goes, "Yeah, in the beginning we were like, this is not going to work out too well." Because in Cuba back then, people with tattoos had, probably went to prison.
Prison
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I
The
was gonna
connotations
say.
around
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But I was just passionate about the branding of it. I was passionate about the sizes. If you look at my first lineup, everything's traditional, Vitolas, very old school. The new stuff came later, like when I started the Monster series in 07, 08, that was like a way to have fun.
Right.
But
To
I
break
still,
tradition
I
almost.
still, to break a little tradition,
yeah.
but I still made sure that there was some tradition behind it, because ultimately, you got to make a good cigar. And I loved the way Pepin made cigars, because he made cigars exactly how I used to want cigars made, which were triple cap, double binder. They just did things differently. And a lot of people weren't doing 2 binders on cigars outside of Cuba back in the early 2000s. That's like a new thing. And I give that as a nod to Pepin, because he's the one that kind of brought it to people's minds. And his answer was always, I'm just doing what I've always done. This is how I grew up making cigars. So I'm not going to change anything. But the tradition, I think they appreciated my respect for the tradition. And that's why they enjoyed working with me. And let me tell you, it wasn't always great. Because I'm their biggest critic.
Right.
I will always be their biggest critic. If I taste something bad in any of my production cigars, I'll go straight back to them and tell them, because I want perfection. You know what I mean?
Well,
I
there's
don't.
pride.
That's important, isn't it?
I want. It's a representation of all of us. It's not just a tatuaje. People know that it comes from my father's cigars, and I don't want their reputation to get hurt by something bad also.
Yeah, I suppose without criticism, there's no growth.
What's that?
Without criticism, there's no growth, right?
Yeah, you have to have the criticism. I mean, if you just think you're the biggest hot shit in the world, you're not going to get anywhere.
Fail
No,
quite
exactly.
quickly.
There's no room to grow. There's nothing there. But
I love meeting people that never tried the product.
Yeah.
Because it gives me the opportunity to, like, maybe there's one more guy that's willing to try the product, and actually maybe they'll enjoy it. Again, the bonus is when people actually enjoy what I do, because I'm making these for us to smoke. Like, that's it.
Yeah. So was that the moment you knew that he was the right partner for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I didn't even know how to own a business. Like, I went and took a night class on how to learn how to open up your own business, to get all my licenses and everything, get my bank situation all settled. And I went down to Miami, and
The rest is history.
yeah, that was it. I went down to Miami, sat with Pepin and Jaime, and I think the coolest part about meeting Jaime for the first time was I brought old Cuban boxes with me, like old Hoy de Monterrey and Bolivar boxes, cabinets, because I love the cabinet feel. And he said to me, he turned the box over, and he says, "This is my box." I go, "No, that's the box that I brought." He goes, "No, this is my date stamp. I was in the factory when this date stamp went on the box. So the box I brought to have them copy, for me to have my product in that cabinet, was something that they did while they were still in Cuba," which is kind of cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds all very authentic. Nothing seems very forced or anything. It was kind of like it all just kind of married up. And
It was never forced, and they knew they were getting into business with a crazy kid, because, like, I'm a musician. I was an artist. Like, there were things that I had a lot of crazy ideas in my head about what I believe were cool.
yeah,
And so when I created the Monster series, they're like, people would come to the factory and visit them in Nicaragua and say, "What's Pete up to now?" And they would show them a box, and they're like, "What the heck's he thinking?"
yeah.
So
Did anybody really doubt it? In terms
no
of what
one
you
really
wanted?
doubted it.
No?
They just thought I was being a little crazy.
Did they think it was going to be as successful though?
That I'm sure they didn't think it was going to be successful.
Because it was just so sort of outlandish at the moment.
The brands
I
were
guess.
doing good by the time, like, we didn't really take off until our 4th trade show.
Okay.
Our 4th trade show was in Las Vegas, and I remember walking into the trade show that day, and I had a blazer on and a t-shirt.
Right.
And I took the blazer off, turned around, and there were like hundreds of people standing in front of me, waiting to place an order. Because the cigar just got a big rating in Cigar Aficionado. People wanted the product, and everybody was just standing there kind of in amazement. So the family at that point they were making cigars for themselves. They were doing okay, but Tatuaje was the dominant force in the factory. Eventually, when they, finally started doing similar business, and then eventually getting their #1 ratings and everything, I was actually, it was a sigh of relief for me, because I was like busting my ass to make sure that I could prove to them that I was going to be a good client. Sometimes, it was definitely that moment of like, okay, maybe I can sit back for a little bit. Because I love creating products, but I don't want to rush anything. I still have products that are not done that I've been working on for 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
as I said, that moment where you spun around and just saw everybody waiting must have been like, wow.
Intense.
Like almost a feeling of, as you say, relief.
There's a funny part about that trade show. I would always rent the booth spaces for the trade show. So I rented 3 booth spaces, which is 30 feet long. So 3 times 10, 30 feet long. And the Garcias had 1 booth, and I had 2. But in their booth, they gave 5 feet of their booth to a friend of theirs.
Okay.
And I gave 5 feet of my booth to a friend of mine. And if you look at all 4 of those companies, they all do very well. But it was all 4 of those companies in one tiny space. So
Yeah, that's...
a lot of growing pains. I mean, it's not easy. But we had a lot of fun.
Expansion brings a lot of...
I've learned Spanish better too.
Really? Just through...
Like when you're exposed to a Cuban family, you start learning things that you shouldn't probably... I don't speak Spanish, I speak Cuban.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a difference.
Yeah. I was going to say, yeah, to be fair, even being able to learn that, I've tried to learn different languages. It's difficult, it takes a lot of time.
My father-in-law is the best because he actually takes the time to speak slowly.
Okay.
He pronounces every word perfectly. Like he speaks slowly to me. Talking about tobacco, super easy in Spanish. But if you're going to tell me about a baseball game, I'm going to lose you.
Yeah.
But tobacco Spanish is super simple. I mean, anybody could learn it pretty quick.
Okay. We'll have to give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to talk about the branding itself. Obviously,
We've talked about it a little bit. Simplicity.
Yeah, so Tatuaje obviously means tattoo.
Yeah.
But I find it kind
that
of...
was the anti.
I find it interesting, though, how the branding it's called tattoo, essentially, but the branding is very simplistic. Mm-hmm. I find that very interesting.
The contrast between the two.
Well, the original concept for Tatuaje is I wasn't going to put a band on the cigar. And actually someone told me that I needed a band for name recognition. And I was like, okay, I'll put a band, but I'm going to use the simplest band ever. And back in the old days of Cuba, most bands were just simple brown, nothing to speak of bands. Mm-hmm. Over the years, they've all changed. Now you see H. Upman with a colorful band. You see
Hoyo's got a really colorful
Hoyo and all those.
brand.
Hoyo and didn't even have bands. All the Duois series, the Dedu, all those series didn't have bands. For me, I love cabinets. So like when I would look at a 50 cab of Partagas Lusitanas with no bands, that was just sexy to me because it was simply about the cigar. And I didn't want to dress it up, too much to where people were like, oh, it's just fancy packaging.
So people enjoy the cigar for the cigar, not for the marketing and the visual aspect.
But I learned a good lesson from watching friends of mine over in the industry for years, and I saw that some people did know bands, and then eventually someone said, hey, like, listen, people are actually taking like an unbanded cigar and putting it in your box and selling it as the same cigar. I'm like, okay, you need the band just to protect the brand name. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to have someone just throw any naked cigar in the box.
And then name it after.
And then say, oh yeah, it's just that. Mm-hmm. Trust me, I did it when I was a kid. Back in the old days, so people can understand, back in the old days, there was a guy named Frankie Ineza who owned Punch and Hoyo. Mm-hmm. He left Cuba, owned Punch and Hoyo. Villazon was the company. And Punch and Hoyo were the same cigar, but they didn't have bands. They had like a little Rothschild size, 50 count cab Rothschild, and come in 3 different colorways. They had no bands, and people were like, oh, I love the Hoyos. And the other guy would be like, yeah, but I like the punches. It's the same cigar.
Yeah.
You couldn't convince anybody that it was the same cigar. So, like, people would come in and say, hey, you got my punches? I go, no, they're coming in tomorrow. I got the Hoyos today, but the punches are coming in tomorrow. I'd take the old punch box and I'd put the cigars from the Hoyo box because it's the same cigar. Like, I don't know what it is about branding. People think that no, that's my favorite brand, and I know the difference. No, you don't. Like there was no difference.
It's power of suggestion as well, isn't it? As we said, it's so subjective. You could tell someone that this is something.
I didn't want someone doing it with that circumstance. It's pretty easy because they're the same cigar, the same size, the whole thing. But I didn't want an empty box of Tatuajes on the shelf that had no bands on the cigars, and the next thing you know, they're taking a sub-par, cigar out of a bundle and throwing it in there and saying, "Oh, these are Tatuajes," because eventually it could hurt the brand. So the ban ended up coming about, but it was always going to be super simple. Like I don't like the frills. I've always loved old packaging.
So that's not something that's ever going to change then. So it's always going to stay simple.
No, I mean, if you look at the Monster series, it's kind of silly. We have the coffin-shaped box, a little bit more embellishments going on. But when it comes to this, I just like traditional classic styling. But even if you look at the way Cuba's evolved, they've actually evolved out of this. Some of it's still traditional, but I don't know. Like, I don't want people thinking that I had to change the band to make it sell.
Right. Yeah.
So it's always going to look the same. Yeah, I don't want it to be. I've seen so many companies and friends over the years, they kept on changing the band, or changing the packaging, and there's nothing reminiscent of the original packaging anymore. But if you look at our brand from 2003, it looks the same still to this day. Like, if you look at the original Tatuaje, it's still the same packaging. That's it. There's no difference.
So exactly, yeah. It's a vision, isn't it? If you've got the same constant sort of uniformed look all the way through, people would recognize it from different eras.
It gets confusing when someone walks into a store and expects to see it a certain way, and now there's a new version, and then most retailers will end up having both versions on the shelf. And you're like,
yeah, not everyone likes change, do they?
I don't like change, but yeah, the cigar industry, unfortunately, for most of us, everybody wants what's new.
Yeah.
So you constantly have to come up with a limited edition or a special edition because there's always people out there that want that new. Yeah. Ultimately, I want people to continue smoking the product that's going to always be on the shelf like this.
The sort of the staple blends throughout the brand.
Yeah, you have to have that. You can't have a limited edition only brand and think that it's sustainable, because we have a fairly decent mixture between limited edition and regular production. But to only do limited would be tough. You'd have to constantly change. Is that Chris standing over my shoulder?
So I want to take it back to your collaboration with my father. Obviously, this has been a project for the last 20 odd years, am I correct? So how has that evolved from how it began and how it sort of appears today? How has that evolved?
I don't get in their business, but there was a collaboration that I did earlier with the family. I did a cigar called La Dueña that is actually made for Yanni Garcia. And I always went into the project saying that I was going to make the cigar for her and for the family to sell. But the funny story was my brother-in-law came into the factory one day and he saw me walking through his office with a handful of samples. And this is about a year after I was going through the sampling stage with this cigar. And he looked at me and goes, what do you have in your hand? I go, La Dueña sample. He says, no more samples. You need to place an order. I go, I'm not making this for me. This is your cigar.
Right.
I made this for you guys to sell. So he ended up placing an order, and they do fairly well with it, but it was always one of these projects I wanted her to have an expression of her, what she would smoke, because her dad had his cigar, Jaime has his cigar, but my wife was the one that was doing all the traveling. I'm like, you should have your own brand. But if you look at the packaging, it's a clear, it's not a my father, and it's not a Tatuaje.
It's completely in its own lane.
Yeah, it's all by itself, because I did some there was a long time ago where bands in Cuba, they didn't have gold foil or gold, gold dusting or any type of embellishments because they couldn't use it because of the war times.
Right.
So they would only use embossed color. So if you look at the band, it's just simple embossed color. That's it. Very simplistic, but I would say it's more of a Tatuaje than it is of my father.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen the La Union, the humidor.
Yeah, the La Union,
and the black.
That's the big one. That's the big one. That came up in conversation with Jaime and I in the factory. And the question was, what size we're going to use? And I said, we have to use the 109. The 109 is like a historic size for what Cuba does, and they always use it on limited editions or regionals. And we had molds for it, so we're like, it's got to be the 109. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to call it a 109 because that's been used before. And like, what do you call it? Like, okay, it's a 49 ring gauge, so let's call it Prominente Especial. So Prominente with a special head. Mm-hmm. That's eventually how the name came about, but it was a long project of figuring out what we're going to, like, who's going to use what wrapper. I wanted to use the Corojo on the first one. He wanted to use the Habano because Habano's a pretty signature wrapper for the factory. Mm-hmm. So when it came down to deciding on the second version, I was like, it's got to be broadleaf from Sumatra. And I said, I'll give you broadleaf because Jaime Garcia is a broadleaf cigar. So it's like, how do you take broadleaf away from Jaime Garcia? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would say it's more an expression of what Jaime and I would do. But they really careful about making the cigars. 2 pairs, rolled the whole thing. The second box, the red box, actually sat in box packaged for the whole time that their black version was being sold. Mm-hmm. So it's actually fairly well aged.
Was there any specific reason for that? Or is it just to kind of stagger it?
We didn't want to put them out at once because you want to leave something for later on. If you
keep things in reserve a little bit.
Well, I mean, if we brought both of them out the first time, they would have all sold and we would have been done with it. But what do you do the next year?
Right.
It's nice. Like, I held the cigar for 5 years before I put it out because I was like not sure how I wanted to put it out. It was my 50th birthday cigar. I'm 55 next week, so
yeah,
I released it earlier this year. So it's you're never gonna rush any of this. The time is right when the time is right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't. I mean, some cigars you can smoke them off the bench and know that they're ready to go. And the reality is, you don't need cigars to sit and age for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They need time to wick off the moisture. Mm-hmm. If the cigars are good and they use good tobacco, clean tobacco, you can actually get them wicked off with the moisture within 21 days and sell them.
Right.
But you want to let them rest a little bit, but it's not completely necessary.
But I suppose it enhances the flavors and things like this.
Yeah,
gives it a little time to rest.
I always say, like, the analogy with wine for me is always big. When you look at a good producer, they're not putting shit in the bottle. Can I swear?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
They're not putting bad juice in the bottle. They're putting good juice in the bottle, and then they're going to tell you, hey, this is going to taste really good 10 years from now. But the reality is, if you wanted to open up a brand new vintage of Chateau Lafite, it's going to be pretty freaking amazing.
From the get-go.
They're just going to frown upon it because they want the bottle age on it. They want the time on it. They want it to break down a little bit, but it's still great, brand new.
Okay.
With cigars, if it tastes like crap on the bench, it's going to taste like crap 10 years from now. You understand? Like,
yeah.
You can't put back to that. You can't put shit in the box.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
No, it's funny because a lot of the time you'll hear aging makes everything a lot better, but as you say, it kind of.
Yeah, but if you're going to age shit, it's still going to taste like shit.
Yeah.
If you age good tobacco and you know that it started perfectly fine, it's going to age beautifully with grace. Our first production, I still have cigars from our first production in 2003.
That's great.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the only difference is at some point I realized I should probably restrict the amount of cedar that's contacting the cigar because the boxes that we use in Miami, there's my alarm again. The boxes we use in Miami, they're actually made in Miami. the box maker in Miami, we took him out of the counterfeiting business.
Okay.
It was the first time I ever saw one of his boxes. I was like, that's exactly the box I need. The cedar's perfect, everything about what he does. And I realized that he used to, dabble in the other side of the business. And I was like, but don't worry, we're going to figure this out. We make thousands of boxes with him every week. So he's a busy guy with us. And now a lot more people have actually started using him to make boxes. But I wanted that flavor profile because I believe, and it's kind of complicated because when you start talking about enhancing of flavors, I believe box age is like bottle age for wine. It will break down, it will kind of mellow down, mellow out. Maybe it'll capture a little bit of the aroma from the box, but you don't want to overdo it because sometimes too much cedar ends up tasting, for lack of better words, when you take a wet cigar with too much cedar over a long period of time, they could eventually start tasting like the smell of cat piss. You know what I'm talking about? You know the smell.
Yeah.
Until you try it, and like I have an old Davidoff Dom Perignon that I'll never smoke because it sat in a cedar box for way too long, and then I know it's going to taste like cat piss. So,
so is that just kind of
I enjoy aged cigars, but at some point you realize, okay, maybe I should have restricted the amount of contact the cedar had on it so I can actually still taste tobacco and not just wood. It's kind of like over oaking a barrel of whiskey.
Yeah.
Like I like Pappy 15. I don't pay for it, but I don't like Pappy 23. There's too much oak. I don't like California Cabernet Sauvignons because they're usually over extracted in oak bombs.
See, I think this is a part, especially for aging of cigars, because this is a massive thing, right? But a lot of people think you just chuck it in a humidor and you leave it there for a few years and it's good to go. But you don't. You have to bring the humidity down and all of these things just to make it. Yeah, there's a lot more to it, right? That's
why I give suggestions, but I don't tell you. I don't profess to you. Like I'm going to tell you how I do it. Like there's some people that like their cigars a little higher in humidity. I like that.
Right.
Some people like their cigars crusty. They like them dry. I like to have a little bit of chewiness and bounce to the cigar because I want to taste the tobacco. Yeah. As long as it's burning correctly and it's, you can tell when a cigar's too wet because it just won't burn good. Yeah. But usually maybe something is not combusting properly inside. But I've had cigars smoked off the bench that are completely just wet that smoke perfectly fine. So
that's interesting.
It's personal preference. All this is personal preference. You can't
that's the
go
beauty,
in to say like I make the best cigar. You'll only like my product. You can only like this tobacco. No, we all make different cigars, and it's up to you guys to figure out what you like, not for us to dictate what you're liking.
So going on from that, the following that you have as Tatuaje as a brand, the consumers and things like that, was that kind of an intentional thing? Was it organic? Did you have to really push to build your brand up, or was it kind of, this is the product, you either enjoy it or you don't, and it kind of just naturally built from there?
It was always the this is what I make.
Yeah.
Hopefully you like it, but maybe you don't. When I started the cigars in Nicaragua, when we moved to Nicaragua in 2006, we still continued making cigars in Miami. And Miami is kind of like the birthplace of both Don Pepin and Tatuaje, so it's like the museum.
Right.
We have 14 rollers in Miami still to this day. And we've, lost a few and some have come back. And when we started Nicaragua, I didn't want to do just Miami Brown Label in Nicaragua. I wanted to do another cigar. So I stripped down the traditional blend that we had. I took the Ligera out and created the red label. And people walked in and was like, yeah, but it's not the other one. I go, it's not supposed to be. Like, I'm not creating a portfolio of one cigar. We all wake up in the morning and go, am I going to have a proper English breakfast, or am I going to have Eggs Benedict today? Or am I going to have cereal? You go to lunch, or you're going to either have pizza or pasta or a salad. But you're never going to go in and say, this is what I'm eating eggs this morning, pizza for lunch, and steak for dinner. That we all have personal choices. We all want to experiment. So the portfolio is broad because of that, because I want to taste different things. So again, it goes back to me making cigars for myself, because I want to have those flavor profiles. I want to have a milder cigar in the morning. Maybe, personally, I like smoking milder cigars at the end of the night, because for me, it cleans my palate. That's just personal.
Yeah.
Like when you're going hard all day, when you're smoking, medium plus or full all day, it's nice to kind of wash your palate with a mild cigar.
See, I never thought about it in that way.
No, but right, it's an interesting way to put it, actually.
I just
Again, that's just personal again. Like it's something I do, but I have a lot of friends that have started doing that because they've appreciated it.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense, though.
You can actually taste it. You would think that you're going hard with medium full cigars the whole day. You think that you won't be able to smoke that and go, oh, there's a lot of flavor. It's such the polar opposite. It's like the yin and yang that you're gonna taste every nuance of that cigar. That's just the way I feel.
Interesting, because you say you ask anybody else and they go the opposite way.
No, yeah. You build up throughout the day.
Yeah. I want to go back though, because you've mentioned using Nicaraguan tobacco in Miami back in 2000, like early 2000s.
Yeah.
You kind of championed Nicaraguan tobacco back then. It was all Cuba. How did that? Have you seen? Obviously, I mean now.
We weren't the first. You got to remember, in the early, when I started in the cigar business in 1993, Nicaraguan cigars were just coming back into the United States because we had an embargo against Nicaragua. So they were slowly coming back into the United States. So when Padron, which had been a brand forever, shows up in 1995 with a anniversary cigar, that was a big spark in the industry. People were like, holy shit, like this is different. Even though it had been around for a long time, outside of Miami, not a lot of people knew about it. But it was a big brand, and it became huge. But they're really, Hoyt de Nicaragua, of course, sparked it. But if you taste old Hoyt de Nicaraguas from the pre-embargo of Nicaragua embargo, those spectacular cigars. Yeah. Absolutely spectacular cigars.
I mean, personally,
more Cuban than Cuban.
Really?
That's how I felt about them. I was fortunate enough to taste some of these cigars, and to me, they were like exactly what a Cuban cigar should be.
Yeah.
So Nicaraguan tobacco for me, even Pepin, was the flavor profile was as close to that profile as possible. But then Honduras kind of throws the monkey wrench in there, because Honduras has that, there's a different note to Honduras even. You're never going to be able to copy a Cuban cigar perfectly.
No.
But there are some nuances from different regions that will give you that moment in time of like, wow, that reminds me. Like, I'll tell my wife all the time, like, I'll be smoking a cigar. She goes, what? I go, I had a cigar that tasted like this, 30 years ago. Like, there's certain moments.
You pick up on.
Sense memories, we talk about it with tasting things. Or I drink a bottle of wine or a glass of wine. I say, I had a glass of this in 1992 at a restaurant in Tampa, Florida, and it was spectacular. Shit like that. Because things just come back. All these sense memories are stuck in the back of our head, waiting to come out. That's why when we talk about tasting flavor profiles and different nuances of what people taste, what you taste is what is not what I taste. But the first time I ever tasted leather on a cigar, I was like, holy shit. It could have been that I was in a car seat, driving my car, and the car seat was leather, and I was like, maybe it got put into my head, but I felt like I actually tasted this flavor profile.
Yeah, we always say that environment changes things as well. I mean, I could be enjoying one cigar on one day out in the cold and the rain, and I think I don't like this cigar, and I'll be having the same cigar in a lounge with friends. I'll be like, this is the best thing ever. Yeah. Like, so environment plays a whole part of that picture as well.
It's what you ate for lunch that could change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like at the hotel, they have ginger shots that we're at. And I had just rinsed my mouth with mouthwash. The ginger shot that I had earlier in the morning tasted much different than the one I had after I had just rinsed my mouth with mouthwash. I ask people all the time, like, oh, you didn't like the cigar? Did you have onions today? Like, did you eat any, like, onions today? They're like, Raw onions? They're like, yeah, I had raw onions. I go, that could have
That'll
caused
change
it.
it.
That could have caused it. If you told me you had grilled onions, I said, well, the grilled onions brought out the sweetness, and you would have tasted something completely different.
It's crazy, really.
It's very personal, dude. Like,
Do you have a favorite tasting note that you've picked up on?
No, I again, leather was always that one that I was like, holy shit, I'm tasting leather.
It's such a weird one, isn't it? I mean, we always say
every once in a while I get this peanut butter note.
peanut butter.
Yeah, which is weird, but it was also the environment of what I was doing, because I was drinking energy drink while I was smoking a cigar, and I was like, there's a peanut butter note. It's kind of a trip. And it was just the combination of the two. I smoke cigars and drink wine. It's not for everybody. I love it.
Yeah,
For me, there's nothing like sitting in a vineyard in Bordeaux, smoking a cigar, and drinking a bottle of wine that comes from the chateau. It's amazing.
I think red wine goes very well with a cigar.
I love red wine.
But it's always been like frowned upon.
Yeah.
But I love it. It's so
At
personal.
the end of the day, just do what you enjoy. You know.
Yeah, you have to be you.
Exactly.
You have to do you, and I hope people understand that when they're smoking or sampling one of our products, that they're experiencing what we'd like to do. Again, I go back to it. It's not a cog. It's not just to sell a cigar. Sell a cigar with a purpose behind it. And if you talk to any of the great cigar makers, they'll tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find it funny how you mentioned the leather, because we've got a friend that spoke to us about the leather note as well. And he told us that there are two types of leather. There's black leather and brown leather. And the brown leather you sit in, and the black leather you sit on. There's two types of leather. It's a very strange one, but it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like, it's hard to explain this to someone.
I read reviews and I see the tasting notes in the review, and I'm like, okay, I could probably get the charred note, but that's pretty easy because you're burning something.
Yeah.
But like I've seen fried chicken,
Yeah,
boiled
I can't say I've
chicken.
ever had fried chicken in a cigar.
Yeah.
You know, there was one tasting note that I always love, and I always get it from a Fuente Opus X. And it's cinnamon raisin toast. You ever have cinnamon raisin toast?
No,
No.
but that's
Think
very
about
specific.
cinnamon toast or raisin toast. Toast with raisins in it. But when we were kids, we would take cinnamon sugar and put butter all over the raisin toast.
Okay.
And one day I was sniffing the foot of an Opus X, and I immediately said, "This smells like cinnamon raisin toast." So anytime I see a friend like light up or about to light up a Opus X, I tell them, "Smell the foot," and tell me you don't smell that. It's just it's the way that they age that tobacco. It pops something that reminds me so much of when I was a kid. So I love that. I love that note. I had an Opus X last night, and I was tasting it the whole way. I was in love.
It's always nice when you get that flavor note and you can bring it back to a memory, childhood memory.
No, there's a childhood memory, dude.
Yeah.
This is something I used to eat when I was a kid. I've gotten golden. I don't know if you heard of Golden Grams. That was a cereal that we had in the United States.
So we call them cinnamon.
They have cinnamon raisin toast cereal also, but
Yeah, they're square ones, square things.
that was another cigar maker that said to me, "What's your obsession with food?" Like, breakfast cereal with cigars. I go, I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I'm tasting this note. That's what I taste it. That's what I smell.
That's interesting.
Again, not everybody's gonna taste that or smell it.
Definitely not.
The way that Carlito ages that tobacco, I'm like, okay, this just brings me back to when I was younger, and so if you see me ever smoke an Opus X, I always put the foot of the cigar in my nose. I was one of those bad retail guys, because I worked retail obviously before I did this side of the business, and this was before a lot of people were using cellophane, so most cigars were in the humor they had no cellophane.
You were the guy that.
I was the guy that was smelling every cigar.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
But that also trained my palate. They would give me a cigar without a band on it, and I go, "Oh, that's this." They're like, "How do you know that?" I go, "I can smell it. Like, I just know this." I used to do blind tastings with a lot of people where they'd give me a cigar, and they're, "How do you know that without a band on it?" I go, "Well, it's kind of a parlor trick. Like, I know the cigar really well, but I also know what you have in your locker, so I could easily
Assume, kind of.
deduct, and then subtract and find out what he has." But A buddy of mine gave me 4 cigars, put them down on the table, and he goes, I go, what is this? And he goes, that's what we're smoking tonight. And he just got a batch of Cubans from Switzerland. This is in the mid-90s. And none of them had bands. And I picked up every one of them, looked at them, smelled them. Didn't smoke them until later, but I named every one of them. It just, again, it was a parlor trick. I just knew the portfolio so well that
you could almost guess.
Yeah, it was easy. Like the Cuban portfolio really is where I studied from top to bottom. I don't know it anymore. But when I started meeting people like Carlito Fuente and Carlos Sr., that's when you really start to appreciate the family part of it. And then you start to appreciate that there are cigars better, in my opinion, outside of Cuba.
Yeah.
And the heyday of Cuba was, for me, a long time ago. It's not there anymore.
So I wanted to ask you, so obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Nicaraguan tobacco is something that you use a lot.
Yeah.
Nicaraguan tobacco used to be very, sort of in terms of ratio of how well they sold or anything like that, it used to be sort of 70-30, 80-20.
Yeah.
In the recent years, 5-10 years or so, it's kind of leveled itself out.
Over here?
Yeah.
It's creeping up. I think, this will always be a Cuban-centric market.
I think
it's a tough battle.
People are way more inquisitive almost of what New World can offer.
Yeah, I would have to thank the price increases.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
That kind of opened it up to people and said, hey, there's other things out there. And it's really taking the chance on things, because a lot of people just like, again, we go back to the earlier conversation where there's a lot of people that like, that's what I smoke. This is the only thing I smoke. That's what I always smoke. And you can't break them. There's no breaking them. So it's like it's not even a point. But now that there's so many great options, and I think cigar makers are making better cigars now than they've ever made cigars. Now you get people going, let me try one of those. Oh shit, I didn't realize that was going to taste like that. I thought it was going to be, super heavy or whatever. It's really taking the time to take a chance on something, and I think that's what we're hoping for, is more people willing to take a chance. Because a lot of times they just not for me, and they don't know.
So with that,
they just don't know.
What do you think the biggest misconception of it is? Why do you think people don't want to take the chance, or do you think it is we're creature of habit? We love to reach for what we've always known?
Creature of habit.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of a snob when it comes to certain things in life. Like I love French wine,
right?
But I love Italian wine and I love Spanish wine. But if you looked at my collection, it's 99% French wine. I love the history. I love the history of Italian wines, but there's so many great varietals in Italy. You're like, I don't know if I can wrap my head around this shit. And then certain French wines I can't afford, like Burgundy is just like through the roof in pricing. So it's like great wine, but it's not an everyday treat.
Right. It's kind of one you keep at the back of the cabinet and reach for every now and then.
Or you just look at it.
Yeah.
Again, I have wines that I just look at, and I have cigars that I just look at.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people that do that with cigars, especially collectors and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain cigars you don't want to smoke the last one of either.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I have very special a collection of cigars that are all very special to me, and like boxes I'll open to look at, but I'll never smoke one of them. Luckily, I've smoked a few of them, so I know what they taste like, but they're almost too personal to light up.
Keeps the passion alive.
Yeah.
How do European palates differ to the US smokers?
I thought I had that figured out, but when I came to the European market with cigars, I figured, okay, I'm going to do a cigar that's a little bit milder, and I was wrong, completely wrong. I don't think anybody can figure it out. I think people's palates are constantly evolving, and the European palate has evolved tremendously. But I discovered new things. I really wasn't into Peruvian tobacco until recently. I tasted something with Peruvian tobacco that kind of brought me back in time to a Cuban note. So I want to experiment with that a little bit more. It's a profile. I'm always searching for the better. the better option. I'm always searching for the next best one. Like, people ask me all the time, what's your favorite cigar? Okay, if you told me I could only have one, I'm going to tell you the Havana Cazadores that I make in Miami.
Right.
That's my desert island cigar. Perfect size, perfect blend, everything about it. You tell me I only got one, that's it. But I'm always trying to make the better cigar. Like, I'm always trying to find like that next profile. What am I missing?
Again, that's
Cigar makers have a fair luxury that if you don't like the cigar, you don't have to make it. We go, like, I go into the factory and I put something together, and if I don't like it, that tobacco gets used somewhere else. I mean, if it's a rare tobacco, maybe I have a small amount that they're allowing me to use. But if I don't like it, I just won't make it. I had a project that I made bands, all the packaging for, and never made the cigar. So I couldn't wrap my head
around how to make the blend work, or
the blend. Just, I wasn't happy with it. My friends were happy with it. My friends were smoking it. Oh, this is going to be great. I go, something about it is bugging me. And it was a vintage cigar. So it was a vintage cigar from one farm. I called it La Vérité, which is the truth in French. I don't pronounce it correctly, but yeah. And what it was is one vintage, one farm. And the 2010 crop, Jaime had set aside some tobacco for me to use. And I made a few samples, gave them to my friends. We were smoking, everybody's loving it. And I just couldn't, figure out why I didn't like it. So months later, Jaime asked me, he goes, "You going to use this?" I go, "No, I've moved on."
That mentality, though, that's again what drives the brand forward, right? The mentality of never being content.
You never want to have a cigar that you give someone they absolutely fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make sure you're not putting shit in the box.
Yeah, for sure.
When you have a customer, and my father-in-law is very similar to me. When you have a customer that had a bad experience with one of your cigars, it's gut wrenching. Like, you feel it because you really thought you did your best on that product, but then, like, yeah, I didn't like it. Like,
yeah,
that hurts.
Leaves a sour taste. Almost.
That hurts.
But then again, there are thousands upon thousands of people who will enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, not everybody likes the Monster series, but there's thousands of people that buy it. And not every Monster is the same either. They're all different. So, like, people expect it to be the same cigar. No, it's a new expression. This is a new blend. I remember when I came up with the Cabaiguan line back in 2005, someone actually said, well, it's not a Tatuaje. I go, it's not supposed to be. Like, I'm not making only this. Like, Cabaiguan is a different expression completely. I wanted to go even, more old world and go milder and just like, plus, when Tatuaje first started, it was actually considered a stronger cigar for a lot of palates. Now I would put it somewhere in the medium plus range because palates have changed and people are smoking stronger and stronger and stronger. I have cigars that are stronger than the original Tatuaje, but I needed to have those expressions. And it goes back to choices and wanting to have salads and pizza and all the different food groups.
Yeah, talking of choices though, with the vintage, do you ever see yourself revisiting that, or is that completely?
Yeah, I did it again in 2013. I wanted to do it in 2018, but I couldn't find the blend that I liked. It's a lot of work. Yeah. Blending from one farm can get pretty painful, especially if there's only one seed varietal on the farm. The particular year that I wanted to do another version of it, they only grew one seed varietal, and it's been like I've done it, the first vintage, but I wanted the expressions. And there's always a seed varietal that we like to use, which is Pelo de Oro. Like on limited editions, we always try to slip a little bit of Pelo de Oro into it. But when you talk about using Pelo de Oro, like, that was a good point. Sometimes you have to ask the master. Like, I'm a kid in a candy store, like, I go play. But I couldn't pinpoint why I didn't like a certain blend. And I went to Pepin, I said, what would you do differently with this blend? He goes, instead of one full leaf of Pelo de Oro, do half a leaf. And that was the perfect change. Like that advice made the whole cigar change for me, and I actually fell in love with the blend. But I had to, sometimes you get writer's block. I've been having writer's block a lot lately. Like Honduras for me is like, I'm having writer's block.
Yeah. But are there any upcoming UK releases that people can get excited about?
My distributor and I have been talking about doing some special UK only products. But currently we do a lot of stuff for the international markets that we don't make in the United States. I've always been into the whole fact that when people travel, you want to find something that you can't get at home.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to search out things that you can't get. When I was a kid, I used to try to search out a product that was only made for the UK. But living in Los Angeles, you're trying to call the UK before the store closed while you were waking up. I could never get the cigars. It was a Fuente product, actually. It was a Don Carlos that they only made for the UK.
I imagine it's a little bit easier to get hold of one now, is it?
A little easier. I have some connections.
Well, listen, I think that kind of wraps the majority of things up, and I mean, it seems like there's a lot to look forward to from the Tatuaje brand.
Yeah, I could talk about the same shit over and over again. Everything has to come from here, you know.
For sure. But listen, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit with us and let us sort of quiz you about the brand and all them things.
No, I love conversations, man, so I could do this much longer, so.
Great.
Absolute pleasure.
As I say, pleasure is ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and supporting us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, as always. As always, don't know why I said that. But until next time, stay safe and happy earthing. Peace.